Hi, I'm Dr. Veronique Desonier, founder of breastcancerconqueror.com and the 7 Essential System. And our mission is to empower women so they never have to fear breast cancer again. Today, I'm super excited to have on our Wellness Warrior podcast a friend that I met. His name is Paul Barattiero. Hope I pronounced that right.
Beautiful.
And I met Paul at a cancer conference. And what impressed me about him right away was that as soon as I asked a question, a scientific question, he had the answer. And I could tell that he came from his heart, that he was very passionate about his business, his product, and he really had a great intention of making a difference in the world. So I'm really excited to be able to have him here on our show. And to tell you a little bit about him, he's lectured all over the world. He's been on Truth About Cancer. He's been on TV shows, radio shows. And I was really interested to see that you have studied the effects of hydrogen on 170 different diseases, as well as the major organs in the body. So that's very interesting. I'm looking forward to diving into that. Yeah. He has a company called Synergy Science. And if you stay tuned to the end, we're going to give you a special code that will give you a 10% discount on any of the products that we talk about. So, Paul, tell me why you started doing what you're doing. I mean, why hydrogen and why Synergy Science? How did that all get started?
Well, thank you for that. It's a good question. The love of my life, my queen, my wife, Jacqueline, we've been married 24 years next month. And since the whole time we've been married, she's had complications, issues with thyroid, with gynecological, different things. And it all kind of started, to be honest with you, when we first got married. We didn't know if we were going to have children right away. And she said she wanted to take a contraceptive birth control. And I said, no, don't do that. Don't take a birth control. You know, there's other ways to accomplish this without putting a drug in your body that could affect you, you know?
Right.
And, you know, I was young. I was 21. I didn't push it, quite honestly. I didn't have the information I have today. I didn't have the resolve today to make sure that we wouldn't put a drug in somebody's body or what have you. So I said, but it's your body, you decide, but I'm saying, please don't do it. And from almost the moment that she began taking the birth control, it threw her thyroid completely out of whack. She gained about 40 pounds within a weeks. I'm talking weeks, not months.
Wow.
She gained 40 pounds and just a lot of different things. And so it changed her life effectively. 10 years later, we were blessed with a child, but that was after many miscarriages and issues and all kinds of things. And, you know, she was diagnosed with adenomyosis and all kinds of different crazy things that they didn't even know what it was. So having health challenges and me being in the healthcare field, it was sad and frustrating for me, because at that time I was working with those with diabetes. I was working with individuals with diabetes and foot and ankle conditions. And so, you know, I wasn't in natural medicine yet all those years ago, 24 years ago. So anyways, that's what led me, is wanting to help her, quite honestly. And so when I first learned about this water technology, it was about alkaline water, which I think a lot of people have heard about. And I heard about these machines that produce alkaline water, and, you know, there were all these wonderful healing stories and all kinds of things, but I didn't agree scientifically from a chemistry perspective in the body that simply changing the pH of water would do all these things, because you could put baking soda in water and you could accomplish the same thing then for very inexpensive. So I didn't buy it, but at the same time, I could not refute that it was having effects, because it helped her. And so when I first, when she first drank the water, we were on a cruise with some friends, and as a gift to us, they bought the cruise, but as they brought water with them, which I thought was so strange. You know, of all the things you'd bring on a cruise, I didn't think you'd bring water. And I told them, you know, they have water on the ship. You can get water. And they're like, no, you don't want to drink that. You want to drink this. And so they brought a whole suitcase of 8 gallons of water, because it was a 9-day cruise.
Wow.
Yeah. So you can't even take water now like that. It's very difficult. But back then you could take your own water. Well, anyways, long story short, each day she started feeling better. And when we first got on that cruise, she was doubled over in pain. You know, we drove down to Fort Lauderdale in Florida to go to this cruise, and she could hardly move. It was Sunday or first day of her cycle. She was in bed. And here's me going back and forth to art auctions and all this stuff, but I don't want to be there. I want to be with her. So I'd go back. And so I watched her, and I could not deny that she had benefits, that each day she said to me, honey, something's about this water. I'm craving this. My body's craving this water and I can't stop drinking. And I said, okay, you drink that water. I'll drink the toilet water, right? So, you know, whatever. And so, but it helped her. In about 6 months, her menstrual cycle normalized. And this was a huge thing for our family. It changed everything. Instead of losing her a week a month, she was now able to function during her cycle. And so it caused me to have to look at things deeply and do some research. While I didn't agree it was the pH of the water, there was something in the water, and I wanted to figure out what it was. And with God's help, and I have to say that because the bottom line, it was inspiration that led me to understand it was hydrogen. And it was, once I understood it, I spent a lot of time researching and trying to understand, because there were no studies at that time.
Right.
You know, it wasn't until 2007 that we ended up understanding the benefits of hydrogen.
That it was the hydrogen. And that's a really important point, because I've been in the wellness industry for 40 years. And when alkaline water became very popular, you know, patients would come to me and say, oh, you've got to try this, you've got to try that. But when I tested them on, like I used to use bioenergetic testing, and I tested them against the water and against their body and their digestive system, it would always tank them out. It would always weaken them.
Right.
And I even had a gastroenterologist friend who was for alkaline water, but he always said no more than 3 glasses a day, always on an empty stomach, 2 hours away, you know, after food and 30 minutes before food. And so when I met you at the conference, I'm there, oh, okay, roll my eyes, another alkaline water machine. What's he going to say differently, right? But what caught my attention is that you said exactly that. It's not the alkalinity, it's the hydrogen.
Right.
And then you use science to back that up. So that was a big turning point for me in really understanding the importance of hydrogen. So why don't you touch on that a little bit?
Sure. So, you know, when, you know, whether we deliver, and you know, I want to talk about something. You said you tested the body energetically, and I'm absolutely a proponent of that. I love it. And here's what's interesting. That's what caught my eye in the beginning. When you would have one of these alkaline water machines that were brand spanking new, it was amazing. The body would test very strong. But within 2 weeks, 3 weeks of them using it, the body would be weak. And I kept asking myself and saying, what's going on? What's changing? Because whatever the mechanism of healing was is now gone. What was that mechanism? And so that's what drove me to understand, if it's not pH, what is the mechanism? And the day that I had my epiphany was, I had an employee at the time who had a PhD in chemistry and water. He went to Emory and he got a PhD on water chemistry, and it was amazing. Yeah. And so I was like, hey, Chris, can you read all this stuff that the alkaline water machine industry gives to everybody, saying it proves that it's right? Can you please tell me if all this is nonsense? Because I think it's nonsense. And so he got back to me the next day and said, you were right. There's nothing in there that's based on anything I learned in getting my PhD in water chemistry. He said, it's all backwards to what actually happens. He says, except for this one study. And he held up this one study and he said, buried halfway in this study, it mentions hydrogen having a ROS scavenging capability. And he goes, I think this is your answer. And as soon as he said that, I just felt the power of that and knew that was correct. So I, of course, then focused on studying hydrogen. And so what we've learned, and we're just scratching the surface, but there are 700 studies, and I have them in my laptop, most of them, not all of them, but we're showing the benefits. But what we need to understand, that most disease is caused by oxidative stress and inflammation in the body. And so we know oxidation is natural, but if oxidation gets too high, then we have oxidative stress. And that's where we start to have major issues, because inflammation comes as a result of the oxidative stress. And we actually have cell damage going on. So what I've learned is that in a nutshell, hydrogen reduces the oxidative stress and inflammation. And so it's obvious, if oxidative stress and inflammation cause disease, then if we can reduce it in the body, then we make the body far more um, able to resist or not susceptible to these things, because we keep oxidation in a normal range. But to specifically talk about the oxidative stress we're getting rid of is hydroxyl radicals, superoxide anions, and peroxidase, and things that are in the mitochondrial respiratory chain. So when the cells of the body, when the mitochondria is producing oxygen, or we would say the mitochondrial respiratory chain will convert oxygen into energy and fuel for the body, there is a byprocess, which is reactive oxygen species, or hydroxyl radicals. So we know that hydroxyl radicals are the most cytotoxic or cell damaging radical in our entire body, disrupting our ability to produce energy. So it sounds horrible, a hydroxyl radical, and it sounds scary because it's the most damaging, but really all it is a hydrogen and an oxygen. So when we're giving extra hydrogen to the body that can get into the cells and combine with that hydroxyl radical, then it creates water. So
H2O, you have an H and an O, and you add extra hydrogen, so you have H2O, or water.
That's exactly right. And it's simple chemistry, but huge, profound effect on the body. And so that's how it is.
Now, I know I've heard you speak about, well, let me sidetrack here on the mitochondria, because my community really understands, cancer is a metabolic disease,
Right.
and it's caught, the big foundation of it is mitochondrial damage, poor respiration, oxidation,
Right.
inflammation.
Yeah.
And so to be able to reverse that with something as simple as hydrogen, and to support the mitochondria, that's very key in healing.
Sure.
And secondly, you mentioned once that since hydrogen is number one on the molecular chart, periodic table, how does that impact the effect of hydrogen?
So hydrogen being number one is because it's tiny. And being tiny, everybody wants to be big, but tiny has its benefits. You can go all kinds of places,
Mm-hmm.
And hydrogen can get anywhere past the blood-brain barrier. It can get into the cells of the body. It gets into joints. It gets everywhere. And that's where it's supposed to be, is everywhere. And the thing that we really need to talk about is hydrogen is supposed to be in our body. I haven't developed something that is not natural. The creator of our bodies created a hydrogen generator in our gut. And we are supposed to be producing 10 to 12 liters of hydrogen per day if we're eating the proper foods and we have the proper gut biome, the microbiome in our gut. So the problem really is, if we want to look at the source problem, there's an attack on our gut. And really, it's an attack on our immune system. If we really want to break it down to the brass tacks, they're attacking our gut, but that's because 60% of our immune system resides in our gut. And so if we disrupt gut function, if we wipe out the proper bacteria, then our susceptibility increases rapidly. And so you end up getting a disease over time. And so an oxidative stress increases and all these problems occur. So really what hydrogen does is a number of things. We're reducing oxidative stress, which is the immediate need in the body. We are also increasing or stimulating anaerobic microflora very rapidly in the gut to repair gut function. We're stimulating ghrelin secretions in the stomach. When the hydrogen gas passes through the stomach, you stimulate ghrelin secretions, which goes to the hippocampus, hypothalamus, and brainstem to increase cognitive function.
Okay, so explain what that is, the hippocampus and all that, so people.
Sure. So it's basically the brain. I mean, that's the most important brain center. From a perspective of cognitive function, those are the three that we need to focus on. And so particularly with Parkinson's, Alzheimer's patients, that we will see a marked difference with them. If they have tremors in their hands, within about 20 minutes, they're almost still. And they'll start to feel tingling in their brain. And then a couple hours later, all the way down into their legs. And, the first time that happened, I just wept, because it's an emotional moment when you're at a trade show booth and somebody comes to your table and they've got their hands in their pocket because they're embarrassed. And you say, here's some water. And it's just a small glass. We're talking 4 to 6 ounces of water.
Mm-hmm.
And on the first glass, we could only fill it halfway because they would slosh it out. And within them drinking 3 little glasses of that, and then coming back 20 minutes later, they're showing me their hands. And they're like, what did you do to me? What just happened? I mean, it's a very beautiful experience. It's a very emotional experience when they're looking right in your eyes and you've done something to them. So I always say we need to be careful and not saying, I didn't develop hydrogen, the creator did. I'm simply delivering hydrogen through water. The water is the vehicle. We're cleaning it beautifully, of course, of all the toxins and things, but then we're getting hydrogen gas into the body. And we know we've already identified over 200 biomolecules that are regulated by hydrogen. We know telomere length is we have studies on telomere length. We have studies on,
which is what are telomere lengths?
Well, that's your anti-aging. We know that we're affecting
DNA.
Anti-aging. Yeah.
DNA
So,
chromosomes.
right. And from University of Texas, we have all the way down to DNA. We're changing the DNA. And so we can get into deep science, but I don't want to go so crazy with everybody today. But we know, and actually on that telomere length study, Dr. Jimenez was one of the contributors to that study.
Wow.
Yeah, we know him. So we know whether it's diabetes with lipid and glucose metabolism, we know, and oxidized LDL and free fatty acids and adiponectin and all these things that were reduced by 15.5%. What we're really seeing when hydrogen gets back into the body, which is where it's supposed to be, it does what it's supposed to do. And we need to understand that when our body has proper E. coli and we're eating fiber-rich foods and short-chain fatty acids, foods that are broken down into short-chain fatty acids or medium-chain, all those things are converted to hydrogen gas. Now, I jokingly say that's flatulence or farts, right?
Farts, right?
Yeah. And so we should
good farts.
Yeah, we should be farting if we're healthy,
Right.
But everyone say, oh no, I don't want to fart. But the reality is that's methane, it's hydrogen, sulfide. I mean, there's a number of things.
Right.
But we should be having that effect with fermentation in our gut if we're eating fiber-rich foods, we're eating the proper foods. And that's normally how our bodies would have oxidation reduced.
But because we have unhealthy guts, unhealthy diets, we're not producing the hydrogen that we would normally produce to reduce the oxidative stress and the inflammation. So now we fortunately now have technology where we can add hydrogen. Now, can we get too much hydrogen?
No, and
how long does it last once it's in the body? I just drank I've got a bottle here full of hydrogen water. How long does the effect last?
So that's a great question. It's funny when you talk about hydrogen, everyone wants to get the most hydrogen possible, right? I need 100. Right. I need to be filled with hydrogen. The real truth is intermittent exposure to hydrogen is what's best. And we can think of it in natural because you would eat multiple times a day and you would have hydrogen produced, right? So you would get intermittent exposure in nature to the body producing hydrogen, and then we would have it. So we don't recommend that you get as much hydrogen as possible, that you just, try to maximize the parts per million. We know that half a part per million is therapeutic in water. And we know that if you get 1 part per million, it's double the therapeutic dosage and you're fine. And if you get once or twice a day a 16-ounce bottle of that, it's sufficient. But what's nice about having the machine is you can get it all the time whenever you're drinking water multiple times of the day. Mm-hmm. Now, what's going to happen when we drink the water? It's going to go in our stomach. It's going to go into the duodenum, into the small intestine, and then water is going to be absorbed into the body along with the hydrogen gas. For about an hour to 2 hours max, that hydrogen gas is going all over the body, doing whatever it can do, and then you breathe it out. So whatever is unused hydrogen, out it goes back into atmosphere, and it's wonderful. Now, to know that there's no contraindication or no overdosing of hydrogen, scuba divers have used hydrogen for many, many years to keep atmosphere sickness down or to not get the bends.
Right.
So they would use a high amount of hydrogen in those tanks. And so obviously it can't harm you if you're breathing in a majority of hydrogen in those tanks.
So let's talk about pH. So I've always recommended pH neutral is best if you want to bump it up to 7.5. But once you start getting 8, 9, and 10, you're going to affect the acidity in your stomach. Your stomach has a pH of 1 or 2, and you want to keep that very acidic. So what is your take on that?
I agree.
Awesome. That's why I liked you, and that's why I bought the machine.
So we have the only machine that produces neutral pH hydrogen water, alkaline pH hydrogen water, and the acid water. But we don't recommend the alkaline water for drinking. We recommend the alkaline water for cleaning dirt. And we recommend the acid water for killing E. coli, salmonella, MRSA, and staph. So the reason we make three is the neutral pH hydrogen water is for drinking. The alkaline water and the acid water are for cleaning and disinfecting if someone wants a chemical-free kitchen. If they don't care about using that water for cleaning because they have a favorite cleanser that they use, or maybe they make their own, then we have another machine that produces just neutral hydrogen water, and it doesn't produce anything else but that.
That's the little over-the-counter Echo water?
Yes, and we have a new one coming in 60 days. It's going to be even nicer. So yes, we have that for them if they don't care about the cleaning water.
Okay, so why don't you tell us, so I have two machines. I have one in my home in Georgia, and we're in Naples, so we bought a portable one to bring with us. And the whole process of getting this machine and getting it installed was seamless. It was so easy to do. And so tell our audience about the process. So if they're interested in buying a machine for their home so they can get, the pH neutral water and the acid and the alkaline water as well.
Sure.
What's the process?
So they would just place an order. They can pay with credit card. They can pay. They can do a financing program. We have no money down, very low monthly payments, like anywhere from $20 to $40 a month. The installation is included in the transaction. We do have installers in most places, not every single square inch of the United States, but we do have over 170 installers in the U.S. We have installers in Canada, Germany, UK, all to install the machines when people get it, so they don't have to worry about how to get it in their home.
So easy.
Yeah. So we include that for them. So we try to make it, just like you said, as seamless and as easy as possible.
Yeah. And another thing I appreciated about the technology was the fact that you're not going to get a buildup of the minerals on the electrodes. So can you explain that? Because I think that's important to understand.
Oh, it's critical. And that's what differentiates Echo from every other machine, these alkaline water machines. There are many machines on the market that make alkaline water, but we are the original company that started hydrogen and talking about it. And so now these companies that were alkaline companies yesterday are all of a sudden, oh, we have hydrogen. And they're right for about the first 2 or 3 weeks. And if someone doesn't clean the machine with citric acid or commercial vinegar every 2 to 3 weeks, they won't have any hydrogen in those other machines, because just as you said, minerals and mostly calcium will build up on the cathode because they're attracted to the negatively charged electrode. In our machine, we have a patented process where we reverse the cathode and the anode every single time you use the machine. And so it's impossible for minerals, or especially calcium, to build up on the electrodes. This is why we don't have to clean our machine to keep hydrogen being produced. Once a year, they do need to clean the machine just as a maintenance precaution. But for hydrogen production, there is no cleaning that's needed because it's impossible for the electrodes to get mineral buildup.
That's critical, and that's really nice, because unfortunately a lot of people have these alkaline water machines. They don't realize that they've got all this calcium buildup, and it's a big problem. Sure. I do want to say that I've been using the machine for maybe 1.5 years now, maybe a little bit longer, but I can say that I can feel the benefits of the hydrogen water. I can definitely feel less inflammation. My sleep is better. Don't know if that's related. Just clear-headed. I really, really have enjoyed the alkaline water. So, and the hydrogen water. Right. Is there anything else that you think our audience would need to know about the water?
Yeah, we do filter out all the toxins. I think it's critical that anytime you're drinking water, it should not have pesticides. It should not have pharmaceuticals. It should not have heavy metals. It should not have benzene. It should not have chromium-6. It should not have any of these harmful toxins, chlorine, fluoride, all these kind of things that people talk about. And we have a very robust filtration system built into the machines to remove those things. That's why Mike Adams endorses our system and promotes it, is because he's tested it and it's clean. It's removing the things he would not want in water. We also have, for people that want their whole home filtered, we do I developed a whole house filtration system called the Synergy Home Filter that removes, and it's the most robust filter out there. It removes everything. It does not produce hydrogen, but it cleans the water, and then you would get the hydrogen machine to produce the hydrogen. But it's very, very, very good. And so I'm a huge proponent of filtration and making sure
Absolutely.
that the water we do drink is clean. And then the other thing I would say, we also have, and we don't talk about it a lot because it can get a little bit woo-woo, but we do have intrinsic energy and frequencies that are in the water that are very love-based. And so a lot of craniosacral therapists, Reiki masters, people that are just intuitive, some people are not, so it doesn't matter, but those that are intuitive, they feel how much love is in the water, and then they just like it. And they say, wow, that feels good to my body. So I would say that people that don't like drinking water will like drinking our water. Even my favorite is when I have moms send us notes saying, my teenagers are not drinking soda, they're drinking your water because they like the taste better. That's when you know you've won or accomplished something.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the vibration and the frequencies and the energy is so important, because the water that we're getting out of the faucet, and after it's been filtered and cleansed and toxified, it has chaotic energy. It's very unhealthy energy. And
Yeah.
so when you have a machine that can imprint that frequency into the water, it makes a huge difference. So thank you for all you do. So you do have a free gift that our
Yeah.
audience will be able to get. It'll be a PDF download. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I wrote an 8-page book just describing the benefits of hydrogen in the body, trying to make it as simple as possible. And then in the end of it, there are multiple studies, including diabetes, cancer, neurologic issues, sports, even people that are running, they will have less fatigue and less recovery times as when they exercise, because the hydrogen will reduce lactate buildup in the muscles. So there's a study on that, and there's other studies in there. So they'll have some studies in the back, and they'll have some things to read about hydrogen, and I hope they enjoy.
Yeah, it's very well done. And I do want to say that, as we mentioned earlier, that if you go to, tell us the name of the website.
Synergyscience.com.
Synergyscience.com. There you will see the over-the-counter, the under-the-counter. You can get some with faucets. And on checkout, if you put in Dr. V10, that'll give you a 10% discount on any of the products that you buy. And we're not going to talk about this now because that'll be another podcast, but we're going to webinar actually we're going to do. He has a really nice portable infrared sauna that I'm just really enjoying, and it's simple, it's easy, it's EMF protected, it heats up in 5 minutes. I love it. So there's all kinds of great things on there on the website. So Paul, thank you so much for taking time out. I know you're busy traveling all over the place on your mission and your passion, and I appreciate you sharing this information with our audience.
Thank you so much, and it's an honor to be with you. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Paul.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.